We've been talking about this film for some time, Zack Snyder's own creation, as he basically at Netflix is building his own universe. And apparently this is connected to Army of Darkness. And there was one bit which kind of plays into that. So what have we got? When her home planet is threatened by the cruel ruling Imperium, ex-soldier Cora, played with enthusiasm by Sophia Boutella, she searches for allies to help defend her home planet. So what we have here, and everybody knows the story, that Zack Snyder originally pitched this as a Star Wars film. We've got a film that is rife with so many influences. We have The Dirty Dozen, The Magnificent Seven, Battle Beyond the Stars, Blade Runner, Gladiator, all playing in to this film, to the point where when we should be looking forward to an original piece of science fiction, because in the days of IP that you recognize, this should feel fresh and different, but feels as though everything has been cobbled together in this Men on a Mission movie, where the main difference is that you just don't care.
Yeah. You phoned me up literally about 5 minutes after I'd finished watching this to say that you'd just seen Aquaman, so we could get ready to talk about these on the show. And I said to you on the phone that I've literally just finished watching Rebel Moon and I can't remember the name of any characters. That's how much of an impression this whole thing had on me. And given that it's essentially a whole film of just setup of characters for what is going to be the next film, there's no real plot within this. It is just like, here's another character that we're going to slowly introduce in slow motion. There's nothing to this film except for the visuals. Even the attempt to have like a big action set piece at the end just feels wanting and lacking. It feels unnecessary. It feels like this is a chopped down film, because it is. We already know going into this that, because Snyder's been saying for months how he's made 2 versions of this film back to back. And now he's been saying over the past week that the proper version of it is the extended version. And that's the one that is almost a completely different film. And it just makes you wonder even more that why have they bothered to release this unfinished mess of ideas that are ripped off from everything else. There's even a dodgy cantina where they have to go to get a flight, find someone to take them off planet, that has a mix of different aliens, including one that starts to aggravate them at the bar. And it's like, this is Star Wars. This is just taken straight from Star Wars, except it's done poorly. I mean, we were semi-excited for this. We've been excited and then, trepidation over the past year for this, because we wanted it to be good. We wanted it. We've got a lot of love for Battle Beyond the Stars. We've got a lot of love for Magnificent Seven. We've got a lot of love for Star Wars. And, Zack Snyder's been saying that he's got a lot of love for those kind of things and they're his influences. But then when you watch this, it's like, well, you're not influenced by them. You're just wholesale stealing from them.
Yeah.
That's not influencing. You can see how it was pitched as a Star Wars film, and you can understand watching this why it got turned down. You can also see why when he pitched the idea to Warner's, they've turned it down, because this is a bad film. This is a mess. Whether the extended version is going to rectify a lot of the issues, I don't know, because the biggest issues in this are that this is a film that feels like it's drawn out, whilst at the same time it's being edited down to an unstructured mess of ideas. If you take all the slow-mo, I mean, his trademark slow-mo is embedded within this. If you take all that out, you could shave half an hour to 40 minutes out of this film easily.
But even those signature styles, the slow-mo, the color grade, the lens flare, just sort of become overbearing and don't add anything in to the general story. I mean, to give him his dues, when he does a great shot, he knows how to frame a shot. He is a fantastic visualist, and that's the winning with this. The film does have some scope and scale to it.
The alien worlds are fantastically
The
realized.
world
Every
beating
world
it,
has
the world. Sorry, carry on. The world building
every.
it, I thought was really well done. But that's what we got for basically
Mm,
this first film. Is we've just got world building, and Lucas managed to do this in 5 minutes, and you knew exactly where you are. And I just don't think he's a great storyteller. The best piece of work that he's done for me is still Dawn of the Dead, which was
yeah,
lean, which was tight, which looked great, and did something new and fresh with the genre. I thought Sophia Boutella is a seriously underrated action star. I think she's great as Cora. I thought the voiceover by Sir Anthony Hopkins, just you could have had any actor come in to play that robot voice. I didn't care about any of the characters. There's a thing towards the end where we're expected to care when one of the gang doesn't make it, but we've not had them on screen long enough to
yeah.
even understand who they are. So why are we upset about them?
I mean, this is where Zack Snyder has his issues. I mean, you've already said like he's not a good storyteller. He's not good at characterizations. He's not good in tapping into the humanity and the essence of who someone is. So you end up not caring. Even the characters who've been on screen long periods of time in this film, you don't care about. You don't care one way or the other. There's nothing to them. They're all just archetypes and caricatures, and they just play simple, bland character types. There's no depth to it. It's visually, you've said that it looks great at moments. And yeah, I mean, like I said, the alien worlds are all beautifully realized. I love the design of the ships and the technology. I love the costume designs. Snyder is an impressive visualist, but he needs someone else to write stories with him, and he needs someone else to help edit, because the editing on this it just lets down any chance of caring. Story-wise, it is just basically Rogue One meets Magnificent Seven, because let's be honest, the whole thing is just a direct rip-off of Rogue One. There's moments with their lightsabers, energy swords, or whatever they're going to call them in this one, where you can see that he probably intended them to not, because in this, yeah, they are actual blades that then channel energy. It's not the light comes out of a stem. But there's moments in the editing that it looks like that wasn't intended to start with, because there's one fight in particular when the blade is thrust through someone who they've got pins next to them, but doesn't go through the person behind. And then when they move them onto the floor with the blade still in them, it doesn't even go into the ground, even though there's a blade there. And it was like, oh, that's a bit sloppy. It's as though all the ideas got kind of like, oh, we can't make it too Star Wars quick. Let's change it.
But then we do.
But then it becomes a dark Star Wars.
Yeah. And that's all it is, isn't it? I mean, it's got a very earnest tone. It's childlike, or it's in places, but then it's got, I don't know. I thought it had a sort of an edge to it that I didn't like, which I thought was a bit sexually sadistic in places. It had all the simplistic morality of a Star Wars film, but then it had this sort of nasty edge to it, which I found really unpleasant. And I don't think the two match together, because is this meant to be an adult Star Wars, or is it meant to be a new sci-fi franchise? And I didn't quite get the tone throughout the movie.
Yeah. We do know that we're going to be getting a second part in April of this, and this film does feel like film feels like an opening act to a much better film. But whether that second part is actually any better remains to be seen yet. We know that Snyder said that he's got plans for a whole series of films, and this is the start of a whole legacy. But I'm not convinced that we're going to see them stretch much further after that second film, because we know that Netflix don't like getting negative backlash, and this has been getting a lot of negativity from critics. And anyone who's not a die-hard Release the Snyder Cut fanboy, and I think their streaming figures are going to drop on the second film significantly. So I think we might see the plug get pulled on the Rebel Moon universe going forward. I mean, after all, remember how Army of the Dead was setting up a whole franchise?
Yeah.
And what's happened with that? Where's that gone? It's almost like Netflix have gone, yeah, focus on this other thing that you're doing instead. I know that a certain fandom out there will shout about it's a masterpiece, and they already are. They're already saying this is a masterpiece. I've seen someone respond to someone who said that they didn't like it, saying, "Oh, when the extended version comes out, you'll change your opinion." It's like,
I seem
so
to
we have to
remember
wait.
that. Is that an echo?
Yeah. So we have to wait the extended version to retroactively decide that we liked this version that you're now admitting underhand isn't actually good. Because they're all saying it's a masterpiece, but guaranteed when the extended version comes out, they will all say it's fixed the problems with the original version, even though they don't think there's a problem at this point in time. But those kind of fans will always be like that. They will always say it's the best film ever made. It's 5 out of 5. It's fine to be a fan of something and not like everything to do with it. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, but there's quite a lot of Star Wars that I don't like. I want Zack Snyder to do better. I think he's got the capability of doing better. His earlier works showed that he can do better, but he needs to be working with better people in order to get the best out of him. This is not good Snyder. Sam Esmail, who gave us the brilliance of Mr. Robot, brings this end-of-the-world tale that chooses to show the fall of society through the manner in which a small group of people are affected by events that they don't know of. A family getaway to a remote luxury rental home is interrupted when their electronic devices lose signals and a suspected cyber attack occurs nationwide. When two strangers knock at the door, claiming they're the owners of the property, the family find themselves sharing the property, with tensions and mistrust causing some conflicts. After the first night, the inhabitants start to seek answers as to what is happening in the world, only to find even more mystery and potential terror in the half answers they obtain. Feeling somewhat similar in concept to a Black Mirror episode, this is Esmail once more tapping into a very believable idea that is sometimes scarily relevant, but plays it without showing us much, allowing us to be as confused and unaware as the small group inhabiting the remote residence. The film plays slow, drip-feeding us more information sporadically, but never suffers for it. Instead, we become quite attached to the group as we see how they respond to the lack of information. The reliance on modern technology to keep us in the loop is highlighted when the technology no longer works. All of this is aided by a strong cast that includes names such as Julia Roberts, Maya Ali, Ethan Hawke, and Kevin Bacon, who all lend heavyweight performances in an understated manner. The mystery plays out well, and the ending was satisfying in a very unsatisfactory way. To say more will spoil it, but suffice to say, this is a film that the ending is going to divide audiences. This is grand-scale storytelling done in a small-scale manner, with Esmail playing with familiar ideas in a creative manner, but much in the same way he did with Mr. Robot, making for a somewhat drawn-out, but ultimately satisfying 140 minutes.